I'm Jaden Sterling, and welcome to my podcast, Intuitive Investing. As an entrepreneur and someone who has taught people how to invest for 34 years, I have a good sense of what it takes to thrive as an investor. Each week on my show, I provide tools and tips, as well as interview world-class investors on their strategies. When your gut and research match, your ability to live a life of financial freedom is easy. Welcome to Intuitive Investing, and let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Intuitive Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Sterling. Got a great guest for you today. I think you're really going to enjoy her. Her name's Nicole Hesse, and Nicole is a self-made millionaire who went from totally broke to a totally broke bartender to a seven-figure CEO in just 13 months. Nicole, I can't wait to hear your story. That's going to be so great to hear, and our audience will love hearing that. And Nicole has a super unique approach and perspective on sales. She stands firmly against traditional pain point tactics and uses her signature strategy of catalyst marketing. So can't wait to hear about that. Nicole, welcome.
Jaden, it's so great to be here. I think that going from that 0 to a million thing has been so epic and crazy for me, but also getting to watch my clients go through that same journey has definitely been a game changer. But it's incredible how fast you can do this. And I, previous to this experience, had no idea. And so what I like to do with a lot of my messaging is to really help people to realize just how much is possible in what an incredibly short amount of time. So excited to be here with you today.
Oh, wonderful. Glad to have you here. And, we're just going to dive in, Nicole. Tell me, how did you do it? Everyone's going to have that question, right? And I'm sure you get it a lot because that's a super short time frame. And although I know you have some skills as a bartender, but how did you convert it to a highly successful business?
Well, in bartender land, you definitely learn a lot about people, right? And a lot about connecting with people in different energies because they're a little bit more closer to their truer self a lot of times when they're at the bar. And so being able to be in this space gave me a unique perspective around communication, and being able to use that communication style in the online sales world definitely made a fast impact. So I think communication being a primary skill set, but then also taking my ability to use social media to generate a bar following, and then taking that and applying it in a different way. Sometimes we have incredible skill sets that we just don't know have amazing monetary results if you just shift them a quarter turn to the left. And so I took the skill set of being able to use social media in bartender land to build up that following, and taught entrepreneurs how to use their social media to get high ticket clients instead of just bar patrons, and was able to build out a coaching business that went from 0 to a million in my first 13 months through a Facebook group.
Okay, I have so many questions. I want to unpack that. So you're assisting businesses to go to monetize their social media posts and things like that. So did you start an agency, or an ad agency?
For me, it was not an ad agency. It was just a Facebook group that I used to build out a coaching industry. So within that coaching mechanism, it was just us coming in and basically IP, where they would come through a 6-week training course that allowed them to develop everything. So I actually wasn't doing any of these done for you services. It was just them doing their own work.
Okay, perfect. So you created a methodology that you saw starting to work for you, and then you created a Facebook group that brought people in so that you could teach them your methodology. Is that right? Coach them through that?
Yep, they were able to take on that methodology that we were using in bartender land and then apply it to whatever their business was. So this could be something like health coaching, or like mindset coaching, or even done for you services. It works for that as well.
Gotcha. So this is all this, it's the secret sauce then. Is that what you're saying? There's some baked in secret sauce stuff that's working, and it's working across a lot of different industries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, across the board, we all have our secret sauce, right? Is being our true self and really being able to attract an audience full of people that, resonate with the way that we connect with the world. And so, yes, there is that thing of attraction and being in the space of allowing people to intuitively choose the best option for us. I think, sometimes we get caught up in trying to be what people want us to be instead of just being our true selves. And so allowing that true self to come through, of course, creates that repelling action, right? Where the people that don't align with us kind of get kicked of attraction with specific social media strategies that allow us to use the algorithm to our benefit.
Okay, so authentically aligned with who they are and their message. Like walk me through what would this look like? Like if I'm a prospective client for you, what would you be telling me?
So as clients come to the door, we really work on being your true self and eliminating your limiting belief patterns, the ones that kept you in believing that maybe you should make $5,000 or $10,000 a month, right? So it's realigning that belief structure and then building a personal brand that matches that. So we'll dial in the exact results that you have. And within those exact results, we will create a message around that connects with people who desire that. And what I do differently is that I don't go into this pain point marketing thing where, a lot of salespeople are going to tell you that you should poke people in the pain points, that you should tell them the worst case scenario that could happen if they don't buy your thing. But what I found in that was that really slows down the sales process. And even more than that, it slows down the results process on the back end. So rather than focusing on breaking people down to make them buy, to get inside, to only have to be the person that rebuilds them, we decide to really focus on what your strengths are and what you're bringing to the table, and also how to juxtapose that in a perpendicular positioning. So it's creating that laser sub niche of saying you're not just a mindset coach, you're a specific type of mindset coach. Like I have a client who works with high performance athletes, right? And so she's not just a mindset coach, she's a mindset coach for high performance athletes who actually are now adults and they're in their adult life kind of reliving the trauma of their high performance athletedom, right? And so helping them to get into that very specific shift that they need to make. So rather than trying to be a generalist, we get you into the specialty, and then we build out your entire personal brand and forward facing on social media so that you can build out an audience to connect with, cultivate, and convert.
So what are some key aspects that people need to know when they're looking at their branding, they're looking at their marketing? Like, let's say someone is, like us, for example, we're a software company and we created software that's intuitive and invest in the equity markets. And what would we be looking for in terms of messaging? Like, I know it's not messaging that takes a negative standpoint. Traditional marketing, has come from pain points. You're absolutely right about that. Where, it's like, oh, if you want to keep your money safe, join us or join here. That was from a pain point, right? So how, just unpack that for me.
It's a little bit about relating, right? In telling transformational stories, we know that the most influential platforms on the face of the planet have been built through telling stories. Take religion, for example, right? Is that every religion has a book and a story that corresponds with that. And that's how we move the masses. And so while a lot of companies really focus on things like benefits, right? Of like why it's good for you or why it's bad for you not to do it, right? It's really focusing in on the transformational story that could occur that's allowing people to connect at a very human level, which, I mean, in this world right now, we have all been at a severe lack of connection in general. And so if the brand itself is not connecting with people on a human level, it's kind of leaving that robotic, hands-off kind of feel to it. And because we're so saturated in social media, I mean, we're getting hit with ads like literally every 6 seconds. The only things that really connect with people anymore is how they relate it back to their personal experience. So if you're working with a software company and coming into that space, it can be a little bit esoteric or far away from people. People also have a lot of feelings when it comes to money, right? So it's being able to relate those personal stories that make it about the actual individual and creating that context of how you're getting your audience involved with your brand. So it's more of an us mentality than a you mentality, allowing that alignment to come through so they feel like they actually belong to something.
I like that. A sense of belonging, connection, storytelling, super powerful. So how did you take a group in Facebook? I assume you just started it 13 months prior to really rocking it. How did you get so much traction in such a short period of time?
Well, I mean, the short answer is simply because I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. um, when you have an expectation of something taking a long time or being hard, I mean, your mind makes it right, right? But I didn't do a lot of market research in how long it normally takes people to do this. And so for me, I very much thought of it as how you would launch a bar. How would you do a grand opening? Because that was my point of reference. And so I knew that if you're opening a new bar, I mean, your first week is everything. If you're not successful in the first week, first month, like it's only going to be downhill from there. And so when I built the Facebook group, I didn't come at it from this angle of like, I needed to build it up. It was like, how can we do a grand opening and blow this thing out of the water immediately to create that established flow? And so I didn't ease in. I went all in from the start. I actually built the Facebook group, and in the first 4 weeks, I closed 20 people into the first version of my program. And within the first four months, I had already made $100,000, right? So it was like, I knew that I needed to make a splash in the market. And I did that with that perpendicular positioning, which actually just comes from bartender land, is that if you were going to build a bar, you would look at the neighborhood, right? You would look at the area that it's in. And if there were a whole bunch of dive bars in that area, maybe you wouldn't go in and directly compete with the dive bars, right? Maybe you would build a high-end cocktail bar, but maybe not too high end, because then all the dive bar people wouldn't feel accepted in that neighborhood. So you would build a middle of the range high end in cocktail, but maybe not high end in price, right? To perpendicularly position yourself in that market. I did exactly the same thing with my coaching business. The only market research that I did was I looked a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right and said, where do I fit in here? How will this make sense? So that I'm standing out against competition, but I'm also creating an assimilation path so that people inside my competitors' worlds can naturally make me as their next choice. And creating that Facebook group from a place of economic positioning rather than vanity metric or fear that it wasn't going to be just like everybody else's. I did some very unconventional things in that process that people didn't really like, quite honestly. But in creating that polarity, I was able to position myself in the market as a leader. I took some arrows in the back for it, for sure, but it did work.
So give me an example. Was it a post that you made that people pushed back on, or what'd you do?
Well, I think that's a light way of putting it. But definitely, I opened up the Facebook world to being able to do free promotion. Before I had my Facebook group, and now it's very common, right? Now it's very common that a lot of larger Facebook groups, they let you do free promotion, let you come in there and get clients. But when I first started, that was not the case. Is that people were not allowed to do that. If you came in and you started talking about your own offer, the admin of this group would immediately kick you out, right? All while calling the group, something about women supporting other business women and those kind of things. And then there would be this problem, right? That if you tried to get clients, they would kick you out of it. Which of course defeats the purpose of a community. So I said to myself, well, how would I like this to be? In a perfect world, if I could pick the rules, what would those rules be? And so I decided that I would just get rid of the no promo rule, and I would create a space where people could get more clients, where people could connect with other people, where it was actual support. And in doing that, a lot of those groups, the way that they run things, they were very threatened by this and not happy. And, I created a different kind of dynamic. And one of those other dynamics was being around struggle posts. Struggle posts are these kind of phishing posts that people put out. They say, oh, hey, what are you struggling with? And then they encourage people to really complain all the way throughout the process. And I found that was just, it was not good to be around, right? The energy of people complaining about their struggle all the time made Facebook groups a kind of gross place to hang out. And so I banned that and said, hey, we're really going to talk about how we can improve. We're going to talk about committing to improvement. Sure, we're going to talk about things that we need to work on, but we're not going to talk about it from the angle of endless struggle, right? Because there are solutions to everything.
Awesome. I like where you're going with this. It's so powerful. It's how many years ago are we talking about here? Like, when did you start that approach in Facebook?
The Facebook group will be 3 years old this month.
Okay, so not that long ago. Okay, so 3 years ago, you start this process. You're clipping along. What's your biggest, like, if you look back and you had this 2020 vision, which is thankfully we do when we look back on our life, right? We're able to look at things and go, that worked really well. This I would stay away from. This I would lean into even more. Tell me, what's the biggest leverage point for you when you built your Facebook community?
Really being unapologetic. I mean, in the beginning, I was still scared of people liking me or not liking me, right? And like still trying to be in that space of not just acceptance, but like, I don't know, wanting to feel like people supported what I was doing. And that definitely led me astray a couple times of being in that people-pleasing mode, being in codependency. Codependency really impacts my ability to make sales. It impacted my ability to serve my clients at the highest and best frequency. Shifting from codependence into interdependence was a total game changer for me. And I definitely wish I would have done that sooner.
Awesome. So we're going to take a brief break here. And after the break, I want to hear all about your philosophy on money as energy. That totally just lights me right up. So here we go. This is a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor is Sterling Stock Picker, software that was created for a novice investor to become an expert. This is everything that you can see on here based on the equity markets, news. So we have video news. We also incorporate social media alerts, tweets, things of that nature, companies that you need to be aware of and what's going on with these companies. They update, as you just saw, on the fly. So powerful software. But the most powerful thing is that I really like is the pick stock feature. Again, this is sterlingstockpicker.com. So you come in and you say, I really want to look at companies that are aligned with my values. So if you have a value system aligned with abundance, and let's say you like business, and Nicole probably likes all these things, communication, you want to see companies that are really rocking it out there. And so you put in your personal values, you put in companies that are industry best, because why not, right? Why not look at only the best in the industry? And then 5 stars. Our star ranking is what is now, we filed our utility patent late last year. So we're in the process of getting our IP patent to go through. But you just put in those few simple things and up pops 19 stocks for you to consider to invest in. These are all top rated companies. We've already done the vetting for you through the technicals, financials, fundamental indicators. And so literally you can't go wrong with our 5-star rating. Why am I confident in saying that? Well, when you look at our returns over the previous 30 months, 30 days, we're up 148% over the sector performance. Look at this, y'all. All these sectors down, from basic materials to energy, technology. There's not one sector that's up over the last 30 days, but our 5-star stocks are up 148%. And we believe in full transparency. So we even post our returns over the last 12 months. From there, we're up 125%. So we built this software from the ground up 4 years ago. This is our 5th year in the making here. And we did it in a way that you can be a confident investor, even if you're brand new. So thanks, Nicole, for sitting through that, that commercial here. And tell me more about your philosophy on everything, that money is energy.
Happy to sit through that kind of stuff. That software looks cool.
Thank you.
I think I need to get that for me.
Awesome.
So when it comes to, it looks cool. When it comes to money, this happened so fast for me, right? So it was like my head was spinning, and learning about all the things of what to do with the money was a big jump for me. And so real estate is where I feel the most comfortable. And so when I went to go and take this money and invest, I really needed to be in that space of knowing that money is energy, because it feels scary, right? Like to be able to take $100,000, your first $100,000, and buy a property with it. I needed to feel connected to something because it felt very ethereal. When I wasn't used to dealing in that kind of increment, to be able to get my head around it, I needed a point of reference. And so for me, the expansive feeling of money, that reciprocal flow, that correlates to just being energy, because when I pay you or you pay me, right? Like we're receiving and giving at the same time. It's very similar to breath. And so money is kind of this intangible thing that we've decided that coins mean something, right? We all made a universal decision together that this is worth something. And so in making that universal decision, we've decided that this energy is valuable. And we assign that value over and over and over again with every transaction that we make and with every dollar that we receive. And so in that flow, that feeling of money being tangible, like breath, is the thing that tethered me to be able to make that big of a jump that fast, so that it felt safe.
Yeah. I had a client a few years back say he's very successful. He said, to me, money is like air. It's all around. And when you have a belief that powerfully that money is all around you, chances are good you're going to be in the flow of a lot of money, right? So tell me how you align with the energy of money. Do you do it? Is there something you do on a daily basis, or what's that process look like for you?
I think that, what a powerful thing, right? To think that money is all around at all times. Because it really is. I think a lot of us grew up in a situation where we were told that that wasn't true, right? Of saying certain things of money doesn't grow on trees, right? Like, well, it kind of does, if you trace it all the way back, it kind of does, right? And so like being able to shift that belief. One of the things that I notice is how important neurolinguistic patterning is. And so some of my ritual around this is to identify speech patterns that are commonly used, like in euphemism of saying like money is the root of all evil. We talk about that. We talk about the evils of money in general, people that have a lot of money being bad or having that kind of connotation that they're just greedy. And so looking at those linguistic patterns in myself, but also like what you see on TV or what you see in billboards or what your friends say, right? Listening for those patterns and then being able to ask yourself, like, is that really true? Like, is that something that we're just saying because we've always said it? Or is it something that's really true? And so unpacking those linguistics over and over again, and then replacing them with more accurate statements. So instead of saying like money is the root of all evil, it's saying money in the hands of good people does amazing things. Right. And so allowing myself to consistently repattern my neurolinguistics. One, it's great for the kids, right? Great for my children to hear it presented in a different way. But it's also been very impactful for my clients, and even my friends who are the most resistant, right? The people closest to us don't want to listen.
Yeah, it's a really good point that, we could go down this rabbit hole for days about money, and even biblically, it says it's better to what than what, better to, right, give than receive. And that sets someone's whole pattern up for maybe having shame around receiving or not feeling good about it, because you can feel good when you give, but God forbid you feel good when you receive, right? And so
literally.
yeah, literally. And so with the NLP so what I hear you say is if a unfavorable thought drops in around money, like money doesn't grow on trees, for example, was your example. And you're right, in the US, in Canada up here, it's kind of printed on kind of plasticky stuff. But in the US, it's still printed on paper. And you're absolutely right. Paper still comes from trees. So there's that. And so we could even say that actually money does grow on trees. Money comes from trees. But that being said, when you do a pattern interrupt, like, when you catch yourself either having that thought or hearing it or having that belief, what does that process look like for you? Do you, like some people say, cancel, clear, delete? get rid of that energy, and then have a like 7. They say it takes 7 positive thoughts to overcome an effect of a negative thought. What do you do then?
Well, it's kind of funny because I touch my nose, like literally physically, I touch my nose to create that awareness. And, sometimes your nose gets a little sore from tapping it so frequently. But I touch my nose, and then I use a tool that I developed called the 7-layer transformation. And so the 7-layer transformation takes the energetic context of not just the statement, but the feeling behind it. And so if I say something like, money doesn't grow on trees, like for most people, that's going to trigger a very specific memory. And it might take a second for you to remember when you heard that the first time, or when you heard it in a more impactful context. But it's asking yourself, what is that really about? And, a lot of people will say that, oh, my grandma used to say that. And so it's like, oh, your grandma passed away a couple years ago. And so you have this like feeling towards your grandma that you love her. And so you also want to love all of her beliefs. And so if you don't love her beliefs, you're losing connection with her. And so really, you're not connected to the belief at all. You're simply connected to your grandma. And that gets to be okay, right? So it's figuring out what it's really about through asking that question. Right? How do I really feel about this? What is the exact feeling? And then locating that feeling in our body of where it's resonating from, whether that's like your solar plexus, or sometimes it's like your left pinky toe, right? So you find that specific place, breathe some energy into that, feel what it feels like. I like to assign like a sensation and a color, right? And let myself really feel that feeling fully, because beliefs are nothing more than feelings that are trapped in our body that we haven't let ourselves feel. So maybe you really missed your grandma and you haven't really let yourself grieve for that. So we sit in that feeling, we allow ourselves to feel that feeling, and then we ask ourselves a very important question. How would I rather feel right now instead? And we get that one word. And then we put that into a 7-layer transformation, which is the format of, if I want to feel, let's just call it connected, right? If I want to feel connected, then. And you put this through 7 different layers of going back and forth of, if I want to, then I need to. If I want to, then I need to. And you get to that last layer to get that message from your higher self. Because a lot of times, we have like squabbly little feelings and we don't really have that tangible message. But through the 7-layer, it allows us to get to that tangible layer at the end that is actually the truth from our higher self, our future self that already has the results that we want in our life. And I call this a unicorn affirmation because I'm a unicorn, right? So I call this the unicorn affirmation. And then we ask you for 3 actionable steps that support that affirmation. So maybe the affirmation gets to be, Nicole, mine is always, you get to do the laundry. My higher self has been telling me to do the laundry for quite some time. So it would be like, Nicole, you get to do the laundry, right? And then I would come up with 3 actionable steps that would help me to do that. But constantly taking action in correlation to the new belief is what solidifies it. I always tell my clients that the profit lever action is not the realization. It's not the aha moment. It's the action that you take immediately after it.
Ooh, that's so good. So I imagine this is part of your process that you walk everyone through, that you created. Good for you. That's awesome. I've never heard that type of thing. And I've been in this industry for a very long time. So hats off to you. I'm sure that's why you're getting such good results and quick results, because you're actually making actionable change for people. You're connecting the result with some type of action step. And, I think so in my mind, there's 2 types of action. There's, the coming from the conscious mind, egoic mind. Oh, you got to do this, this, and this. This is like, the whole spaghetti against the wall marketing, see what sticks, versus the guided, intuitive action. I'll give you an example. March 3rd, just last week, I got an email from a bank called Silicon Valley Bank. That's big in the news right now, right? And the email was trying to solicit my business because we're a tech startup. We went through a capital raise. And so we're on the radar of a lot of different banks, but trying to get our money into the bank because they knew they were in trouble. They had to raise capital, meaning they had to get more customers to deposit cash into their bank. When I read that email, Nicole, my higher self said, ignore it. And so when I hear that, I'm like, okay, then I gave it 0 energy. I knew it wasn't right for us, so I didn't pursue it. I didn't take any time away from my day. It was ignore it. I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. And then literally 7 days later, March 10th, the news is announced that the bank has been taken over in receivership because they're having big troubles, right? So how do you, that's how I use my intuition on a daily basis, like even a moment by moment task, reading my emails. Okay, do I need to put my attention here or not? How do you do it?
For me, it's muscle testing. And so I've kind of gotten into this embodiment practice that's really powerful. I feel like a lot of people want this. They want the result of being able to be like you and to know if they should respond to the email or not, right? And they're kind of in this should I, shouldn't I, weighing of options, which you and I both know that creates a lot of mental load, right? There's a lot of mental load to hold decisions, both sides of that. It's heavy. Right. And even little tiny decisions of like, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Or what am I going to wear? Or, should I take my kid to soccer or baseball? There's a lot of different decision-making processes that we need to make every day. And so people don't realize how burdened they are mentally because they've just gotten used to it. So I realized this in my head that I was like I grew this 7-figure company out of nowhere and I had to make decisions all day, every day. And it was exhausting. And so through that process, I started to develop the muscle test. And it's funny for me because my muscle test, it's different for everybody, but my muscle test is actually in my feet. So I will stand up and so I can feel the bottoms of my feet like grounded into the earth, the energy, the beingness of who I am, right? And I will say it in affirmation form of saying like, I open the email, right? Or I respond to this email. And so my feet will even give me like within, it's not just yes or not yes, because it's never no, because if it was no, we would have a definitive, right? But it's either yes or not yes, because not yes leaves the possibility for you to learn more information maybe tomorrow, right? So it's a not yes in the moment. But mine gives it to me on a scale of 1 to 10, right? And this is something that you can practice. The more you practice at it, the stronger it gets, but it will give me a range from 1 to 10 of how much I agree with this statement, right? So it's like my body says I open the email and this is great, and my feet give me an 8, right? And I'm like, okay, if it gives me a 2, like we're not doing that, right? So it's listening for those biological cues because I believe that our bodies intrinsically know what we quote unquote should do because our bodies are led by our future self. We're literally regenerating cells at all times. So our cellular data is creating future context for us. And if we can just lean on that, then we can take aligned actions.
Nice. I like, so you've got a tip of your nose, then bottom of your feet going on with your with your guidance system from your higher self. Absolutely bang on it, right? It's present moment. I agree. We get the guidance in this very now because we only have the now moment, right? I think you'll appreciate this. I wrote about in my book that there's a sign that hangs in an English pub that says free beer tomorrow. Does anyone ever get free beer? Not a chance, right? Because you only have this moment. And so I like that approach. I have a similar approach when I invest in real estate. I train my body. I stand in front of a building. And if it's for me, my body leans forward. If it's not, my body leans back. So my higher self already knows what I'm looking to accomplish, right? With what I'm doing in real estate versus our other businesses. And so, yeah, I can see your feet might end up taking you in that direction too, but you already get very clear guidance. So that's awesome. So Nicole, how are you? Tell me, I'm totally curious. What type of intuitive investments are you making now?
Well, now that I've gotten my feet a little wet, right, and felt a little safer in the space because, at first I definitely felt the feeling of like, what if I have to go back to bartending, right? And so that fear came in and the self-doubt. So it was challenging for me in the beginning to make investments, but the first 6-figure month that I ever had, I definitely had the fear, like I should squirrel it and put it under the mattress and save it just in case. But I made the decision that I wasn't going to be like that. I wasn't going to be the kind of person that held my money because I know that money is energy. and energy doesn't like to be confined, right? It's constantly moving. And so I took that first $100,000 and I bought 13 rural properties. And obviously that wasn't the total purchase price, right? So I put the $100,000 down, got the hard money lend, purchased those 13 properties, and then took them through entitlement and horizontal construction development. So we got them approved, and then we put power, water, gas, sewer to them, and then actually made a massive return, almost $1 million in that return, when we sold them just 16 months later. And so now that's my consistent investment strategy, is that I buy rural properties. I buy up, basically dirt, right? I buy the dirt and then I take that dirt through the entitlement process and the construction process, and then sell that back either to developers, or some of them we develop ourselves and into, we do affordable green housing. So we put modular homes that are designed from the point of green, everything green in the modular homes, to create affordable housing at about the $300,000 range for reselling. So, we keep it approachable for people to get into that point of entry.
Isn't it crazy that we live in a day where 300,000 is an affordable home? Isn't that incredible? Like years ago, that was the average price of a home. So awesome strategies.
Yeah.
So you build out the infrastructure, basically. You buy a parcel, I guess, go through a rezoning process where you split it up, chunk it up, and then put in infrastructure, water, sewer, electrical, power. Do you do sidewalk? Do you take it as far as sidewalks and road, or what?
They require it, right? So it depends on what the government requirements are for that. But yeah, we can take it all the way to asphalt, all the way down to concrete, all of that. But it really just depends on what makes sense. And so we get to kind of choose that within reason, within the jurisdiction. But it's pretty crazy that 300,000 is affordable at this point. I mean, I bought my first house when I was 24, and I bought it in 2009. And so I bought it for $75,000. It's crazy. That one we rent out now. We rent that one out, but it appraises for like 500 grand. It's insane.
It is. It's so remarkable what's going on. And Nicole, you're a gem. Thanks for coming on the show today. Any last words you want to leave the audience with?
I think that it's just so important to realize that this game that we're playing with money is in fact a game. And, there's people out there that are so stressed and so burdened with these things. And I remember being one of them. But the truth is that if you have the wherewithal to become the kind of person who can learn very basic skill sets, and allow yourself to really commit, anybody can get out of those kind of dire situations. We have so much opportunity. Money is all around us. And, really being in the belief pattern of that makes all of the difference in the world. And I know that when I first started this, I thought that sounded crazy too. So as someone who's just barely turned the corner, please understand that it is true for all of us. I am a mouthy bartender who got fired from 2 jobs and then built $1 million company the very next year. Like, if I can do it, no college degree, if I can do it, so can you.
I love it. Love it. Oh, Nicole, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Would love to have you back at some point and to hear more about what you're doing, and keep rocking it out there. And thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of Intuitive Investing. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Intuitive Investing. If you enjoyed this week's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. For other helpful resources, please visit sterlingstockpicker.com. That's STERLING stockpicker.com to access free intuitive investing training.